Hello, friends and colleagues in the US and the APA. I'm Nils. I'm a Danish-American child psychologist, and for 40 years I've been working with children who were abandoned in foster care, in orphanages, adopted children. I adopted 2 children from China myself years ago. Now what I want to talk about is the immense power of applied psychology and the new possibilities opening up after COVID-19. This has caused an immense technological progress in helping out people who care for children without parents. But first, I want to thank APA for the 2020 International Award for humanitarian work for underserved populations. That's been a great thing for me, and it also made me a member of the PCUN, the coalition advising the United Nations. So, I have so many friends in the US where I was born. Now, how can you help the next generation? Because I think the most important task we have as psychologists is to help children save the world. We really made a mess out of it, and we still do so. So, how can we improve the mental health of all these kids? You know, there are 170 million children now who have lost contact with their parents. And what I see around the world is, in our intervention, is that hunger and lack of money causes devastation. One of my friends, Pupi Gimira, who runs an NGO in Nepal, he told me that poor vendor mothers have run out of money, so they simply kill their children, and then they commit suicide. So we have a tremendous responsibility as psychologists. How can we do this? Some 15 years ago, I wrote a book called Severe Attachment Disorder in Childhood. It was a simple handbook, but it was published in 12 languages, so it sent me around the world to study orphanages, foster care systems, and lecture at universities. Especially after leaving Latin America, I had this crazy idea. Why not make an international network of researchers in high-risk children and then transform them into educations for NGOs and governments, so their staff can learn how to train foster parents and orphanage staff, refugee staff, in attachment-based care practices, simply to define what is quality care. And this has come true, and I want to share with you that you can do the same. We are only 4 people in the Fair Start Foundation, but nevertheless, we managed to train the caregivers of 40,000 children in 26 countries. So how can you do this? I can tell you about the way we did it. We simply we found this great platform called edX. It was designed as an education platform for universities by Harvard and MIT and Google. And then we designed a 6-month education for staff in partner organizations. And in this education, we supervise them every day. They don't have to travel because they just follow their online classrooms. And in 8 modules, they learn how to train a group of caregivers. To us, indigenous people and people in general, it's very important, if you want to apply psychology, that you understand the culture you're working in. So what we do is that we travel and make research. We did so for Greenland government before designing an Inuit language version of the training programs. And we talk to everybody, foster families, children in care, school children, leaders, whoever. And what we were looking for was, what's the strengths of your local care traditions and what are your needs? So from this we we make long-term partnerships. For example, we made a partnership from 2017 with SOS Children's Villages in 4 East African countries. Those are Rwanda, Kenya, Zanzibar, and Tanzania. And we educated 60 of their staff in training foster families, because SOS had to make a turnaround, closing orphanages and supporting local care instead. And those programs we made in English, Swahili, and Kinyarwanda versions in order to comply with local tradition. This was a great success. According to our measurements, child development improved by 20%, and the well-being of the caregivers was also much improved. They made very strong local social networks, and they invented ways of being together and supporting each other. In Africa, foster mothers made a group on WhatsApp. It wasn't our idea, it was there, but it works just great. So now, for example, SOS Children's Villages have been asked by local governments in these 4 countries to make Fair Start a part of their national programs. And that means a great expansion of these programs into the world. So far, since 2016, we have made 20 partnerships with local NGOs in Europe, in Indonesia, in Latin America. And we have educated some for 550, I think it is now, maybe it's 600, local staff as instructors who have trained foster children and young people of 40,000 children. So, in my opinion, this great leap in technological work is very important for us, because our challenge is to apply our psychological knowledge and give it to those who need it. That's what I see when I sit in the PC-UN group talking about migrants in New York. That's what I see in our great network in Latin America, where there is so much migration from Venezuela, Honduras, and other countries. The Spanish edition of my book was called El Niño Abandonado, and it has created a tremendous network. So one of my future interests is to make Spanish versions of our educations and training programs in partnership with local organizations. So, our staff is only 4 people. And that means that each staff member has the responsibility of having trained the caregivers of 10,000 children in care. And that's what I mean when I talk about the fantastic options you have. You can do the same. I did it in the field of children who have been abandoned or who grow up without their parents. But this technological progress you can apply in any situation. Now, in my opinion, I asked myself 10 years ago, what is the most meaningful thing you can do as a psychologist? And my conclusion was to help children save the world. That means if we don't care for the next generation, there will be nothing called democracy, there will be nothing called human rights, and these kids who haven't learned to read and who received substandard care will not be able to lift the burdens of the next century. So I hope you agree with this option of helping children save the world. If you want to read my papers, I made an online, ResearchGate.net and independent academia. You just drop me a line at info@fairstartfoundation.com. And I look very much forward to listening to all the ingenious people who have helped us so much. I could mention Leslie Popov, Harold Takushin, researchers like Robert McCall and hundreds of others who generously have provided us with all their knowledge. So this large network of researchers is supporting us every day and making sure that we can deliver quality care training to any organization in need. Now I'll enjoy the rest of this day, and for sure I'll enjoy very much listening to all my distinguished colleagues in the US. I was born in New Haven in 1952, so I look forward to someday returning to see you and to see my birthplace. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day. I surely will. Best from Niels in Denmark.